Hey everyone, hope you guys are doing well today. My name is Derek Thornton. I am a realtor in Raleigh, North Carolina with a local firm called Farmville Morrissey, and I'm going to be talking to you guys today about 10 tips for home buying. And so we're just going to get into that today and kind of give you guys a general overview of something that I'm very passionate about, something that's near and dear to my heart. I love teaching people about this topic, and it's one of my favorite things to talk about. Please take the time to like the video, love it, comment, ask any questions that you might have. If there's something that you ask that I don't really know the answer to, or if I can't get into it and still stay with the flow of the video, I will definitely get back to you and be sure to ask you any questions that I might have for you, or if there's a better way that I can kind of help you figure out what's best. I also want to take the time, if you have a friend who this information would help them, if they're looking in the market to buy and they are really interested, I'll be more than happy to help them out as well. And you can just share this video with them and just say, hey, I think there's something you might enjoy. It's got some great practical tips. The stuff I'm going to be talking about is not specific to just Raleigh. It's something that you can use no matter where you are in the country. It's something that's a great tool, and it's some great tips that are really easy to use for you in the area. And so just want to keep that in mind for you, and we'll go ahead and get started. Tip number one, and this is in direct relation to the number one question I get from home buyers, and that is, Derek, when is the best time to buy? For me, my opinion is that it's kind of, you should base it on the 80-20 rule, and that is 20% of that decision should be based on what the market is doing, the mortgage interest rates, all that stuff, housing inventory. 20% of it should be based on that. 80% of your decision should be based on your personal finances. And what I mean by that is, when I say personal finances, I'm talking about, one, your budget. Do you have control of your money? Do you know where it's going? Do you know how much is coming in, how much is going out, what savings you have? These are all things that kind of go into that. And if you're living paycheck to paycheck or don't really know, it's really going to be more of a burden for you to buy a home. The second part of personal finances is an emergency fund, rainy day fund, savings, whatever you want to call it. You need some type of cushion in place before you're going to buy a home. If you don't have those two things working together for you, I guarantee you it's going to be a problem if you try and force yourself into buying a home just to catch a low interest rate or take advantage of the rates will never be this low again. That's fine. Don't rush into buying a home if you don't have those two things in order. The housing crash in '08 and all that stuff did not happen because people bought in the summer instead of in the winter. It happened because people who didn't have control of their finances were buying way before they were ready to buy, and they were getting themselves in trouble. They didn't have any type of wherewithal to know what's happening with the market. And so those are the things you really need to keep in mind before you just jump into the market. Tip number two, probably my favorite tip of all of them, is meet with a mortgage consultant. This is probably one of the biggest ones. Now, granted, if you're not getting a loan, take the time to meet with an accountant or a financial advisor to kind of figure out the tax implications, all that stuff. But for most of you guys, you're going to be getting a mortgage, and that's why I recommend that you get in there early and talk with the mortgage consultant. This is one of the biggest steps, because the number one reason for deals falling through is because of financing. People who use the big banks, the people that are having 1-800 numbers in different states and stuff like that, those the different loans and lenders that people are using are causing delays. They're causing issues in the financing, and that's something that I don't want to happen to you. And so I highly recommend that people call a lender who works in my office. His name is Mike G, and he is worth a leg of our company called FM Lending. And it's a local lender. His office is literally 10 feet away from my office, and the corporate office is about 10 minutes away from our office off of St. Albans Drive. And so it's something that's, if there's a problem or there's an issue, he can fix it like that. I've seen him come to the rescue many times and save people in many different situations. And you don't want a lender who's stuck strictly to a 9-to-5 schedule or has a call center that you have to go through if you have any problems. You want someone who's there to handle one of the biggest reasons that the deal falls apart. And that's one thing that I tell people that you always want to keep in mind. So get in there, talk with them early. Keep in mind, there's a lot of homes, especially in this market now, where they're going on the market Friday evening and then they're under contract by Sunday evening. And so you don't want a lender who's not open during those times. You want someone who can get on the phone, call them up, and get that pre-approval letter and get that started. And so that is a very important tip for people to keep in mind. And if you're not in this area, definitely ask those questions when you're trying to find a lender who works best for you. Tip number 3, set up a consultation meeting with a quality realtor. If you're in the area, that's me, if you didn't know. The realtor really has a crazy business model. I tell people, as far as like working with a buyer, from the first time I meet with them and kind of talk with them about setting up a home search to the time that they close on the home, on average is about 4 months. And so that's 4 months of giving them advice, 4 months of consulting them, 4 months of helping them negotiate, showing them homes, doing CMAs to make sure that they don't offer more than the home is worth. 4 months of just hours and hours and hours and hours of work. And if that person wakes up one day and says, you know what, I don't really like Derek, I don't think I want to work with him anymore, there's nothing I can do. Like, that's it. And so if that happens, I make $0. And that person who left has to pay me $0. And so that's why I say it's a crazy business model where you find someone who's going to do that level of work and have that big of a risk with no payment. There's no base salary, there's no company car, there's no health benefits, there is nothing for realtors. And so I tell people, like, this is a huge advantage for you, not to say that you should get into a deal just to back out, but it's a huge advantage to you to have someone who's willing to put in that kind of time and work and dedication on your behalf and not ask for a dime up front. And most of the time, the seller pays our entire fee. And so none of my past buyer clients have paid me anything. They got all of that work and that service for absolutely free. And so that's why I tell people, please, if you're buying a home, get a realtor in your corner. If you're buying new construction, get a realtor in your corner. I can still help with new construction. I can help with vacant lots. I can help with all that. But that's a big tip, is just really take the time to set up a consultation meeting with a realtor, get set up with a customized home search, discuss the timeline. All those things are things that you need to keep in mind and things that I can help you with when the time is ready if you're in this area. I see some more of you starting to join. Please, again, take the time to like this video, love it. Comment if you have any questions along the way. I'll be more than happy to answer whatever I can during this time period. At the end of this presentation, I'm going to put a link in the caption that has all of the 10 tips listed out in a little PDF format. And it's not going to go into the detail that I'm going with you right now, but it's just going to give you a quick blurb and a snapshot of what's going on. And so if you guys are just joining, feel free to use that resource, or you can go back and watch the video when it rebroadcast. Now, tip number 4 is research the market. This is one of those things that is very big and it kind of gets overlooked. I tell people, those with the most knowledge and the most patience win the negotiation. And a lot of times people get confused with the role of the realtor, with the role of the client. The realtor's job is to consult, advise, guide you through this process. But at the end of the day, the decision is completely up to you. And so that's why I tell people, even though I'm going to be kind of speaking on your behalf, I still can't make you do anything. And so it's going to be in your best interest for you to learn how to be a good negotiator and learn about the market yourself. Now, I have to learn about the market in general, like the whole triangle area, I have to learn about that. You only have to focus on your particular area that you're interested in, your particular neighborhood. Those are the only things that you need to focus on. So it makes it a little bit easier for you. And I tell people to use a customized home search and look at as many homes as possible on there, find out as much information as you can. When we meet together for a consultation, I'll give you a stack of business cards that you can take to open houses, and I highly recommend visiting open houses. Just hand the realtor when you walk in, hand them a card and just say, hey, I'm already working with someone, just want to take a look around. Even if you're not working with a realtor, or not working with a realtor, even if you're not interested in buying that particular home, it's still a great option for you to kind of see what your money can buy you in that area. And so that's one thing I always tell people to kind of keep in mind. Also, drive through the neighborhood, see if you like the area. Where's the nearest grocery store? Do you have to make a left turn out of there without a stoplight? These are all things that you kind of want to keep in mind and definitely focus on when you're doing. And the more you start to do that, the more it reduces your home fever. I tell people when you get home fever, you start to think irrationally and you start to get a little jittery about finding that perfect home. When you do this, it helps you to understand that, like, hey, just because we lost on that home doesn't mean that another home that we like just as much isn't going to hit the market as well. And so that's one reason why I really tell people you really want to research the market and get to know that area. Tip number 5, take a deep breath and relax. This sounds like probably the dumbest rule, but trust me, it is a huge one, and it's something that you're definitely going to want to do when you're in the midst of things, you're in the process. This is probably going to be one of the biggest financial transactions that you make in your lifetime, and so it's obvious that you're going to be feeling a little nervous, a little like you don't want to make the wrong decision. And I tell people it is in my best interest to make sure that you make the best decision possible for your situation. I'm in this on the long run. Real estate isn't something I do on the side just to make ends meet or something like that. Like I said, it's a crazy business model, so I wouldn't get to this business if I wasn't in it for the long run. And I want it to be set up to, one, that like I have a good reputation based on what I'm telling you, and then two, years down the road, if you go to sell that home, I don't want to help you or try to have to make a crappy home sound good. And so I'm not going to help you buy a home that I don't think is a good fit or a good match for you. Just keep those things in mind. And like I said, I'm not going to let you make a wrong decision. The other thing to keep in mind too is there is no such thing as a perfect house. Your needs change, your mindset changes. I got an 18-month-old son at home, and I can tell you, my definition of a dream home 5 years ago is completely different from my definition of a dream home today. Now, when I'm walking in homes, I'm looking at stuff I never looked at before, like where the light sockets, where the how high is the countertop. All these weird things I never paid attention to are now kind of crossing my mind. And so I guarantee you 5 years from now it's going to be completely different from what it is today. And so your needs, your wants are always going to be constantly changing and evolving. And so that's why I tell people you're not going to find the perfect house. It doesn't exist. And if it does, it won't last long. And so I tell people just to keep that in mind. Tip number 6, check the HOA rules, bylaws, and the restrictive covenants. This is one of those more practical things, but it's still something to keep in mind. Do you own chickens? Do you have a boat that you want to park in the front yard? Do you run a business out of your home? All these things are things that you need to kind of keep in mind. Now, myself as the realtor, I'm going to be looking at those things as well, but it's still important for you to take a look at them too, because there may be things that you forgot to tell me. And so, like, if you own chickens and you never told me about that, then there's no way we're going to know, and you're going to have an issue when you move in. And so these are the things that you kind of need to take a look at and see, like, okay, is this going to be a problem? Are the streets private? Are they public? Who handles street maintenance? If it's a townhome, who handles roof maintenance? All these things are things that you need to check out, and they're very important because they can definitely come around and bite you in the butt if something happens. Seriously. I see some more of you guys are coming in. Thank you for taking the time to watch. Please take the time to like this video, love it. Again, comment, feel free to ask questions along the way. If there's something I say that doesn't make sense, please call me out on it, let me know. I'll be more than happy to address those questions as we go along. Tip number 7, run all big financial decisions by the lender until the deal is closed. From the time you start looking at a home, or look at homes or get involved in the process, to the time you close, you need to keep your finances as boring as possible. They need to be just dull, mundane, just nothing surprising, just plain Jane predictable. And so if you're thinking about getting some furniture or financing a car or transferring jobs, any of that stuff, please call the lender before you do any of it and say, hey, what do you think? If someone gives you a big gift or a big check and you put that in there as a deposit, if someone's helping you out in that way or whatever, again, call the lender. You always want to make sure with them first that there's nothing that you're doing that's going to jeopardize you or disqualify you for a loan. And so please check with them first before you do anything. I'd rather have you get on the lender's nerves by calling them 15 times a day than for you to go and just do something that makes you have to wait another 6 months or so just to make that purchase. Tip number 8, take advantage of all inspections and investigate the home. Um, this is not the time. Usually, when we go into contract on a home, you have a period of time called a due diligence period, and this period is a time for you to investigate the home in every way possible. Now, granted, if you're in another state, it might be a little bit different, but again, there's usually a period of time that you have from the time you go into contract to closing where you can find out stuff about the home, and this is a time to do home inspections, pest inspections, radon, and I tell people this is not the time to skimp or try to like cut corners and say like, oh, I'm not going to get that. You want to find out everything you can about this home up front. You don't want to find any surprises after you've already closed on the home. And so it behooves you to find that out as soon as possible. Just because you find issues with the home doesn't automatically mean that the seller is going to agree to fix all those things. Usually it's a long list of stuff. You're paying a home inspector to go on the house and find something wrong. Even if it's new construction, I guarantee you they're going to find something. And so it's our job to go through and see, okay, how much are they going to fix? Are there certain things that they can do to repair, rectify those issues? Are they going to give us money at closing? It's best for us to find that out now. And so those are things to kind of keep in mind. I see, Sandra, you just asked a question, how much of a savings lenders are looking for. It depends. There's all types of programs out there. If there's USDA financing or stuff, there's loans that have 100% financing. Most of them that I usually see, particularly for first-time home buyers, are usually anywhere from about 3 to 5% that they're usually asking for a down payment. I tell people it's best, even if you can get 100% financing, it's usually preferable if you can put some type of money down, just because it changes something in your mind. It changes the way you kind of interact for the deal, changes the way you look at homes when you're putting some skin in the game. And so even though they offer 100% financing, I still tell people try to see if you can put something down, or at least at 3%. But they have a ton of options out there. As far as 100% financing goes, usually you're going to find that either through the USDA or possibly like the credit union, something like that. Those will usually be your best option for that type of financing. But I tell people try your best to kind of move away from those, just so you can really, like I said, get some skin in the game, get some equity in the home too, because you want to have something in there when you move in. And even if you do USDA financing, I'm not saying that I wouldn't help someone who got 100% financing, but the thing to keep in mind is that I want you to make sure that you're aggressive about trying to pay down some of that debt and really build up some equity. I don't want you to get 100% financing and then you're buying decorations for the house, buying stuff for the house, and then before you know it, several years have passed and you haven't been able to recoup the money that you thought. And so I hope that answers your question. I can definitely go into more detail about it if you want to, but that's kind of usually around that 3 to 5% is what they're typically hoping for. And that also makes a difference too with if you're in a multiple offer situation. Sellers, if they're looking at two offers where someone's doing like 5% down versus 100% financing, they're more likely to go with the person who's doing the down payment, just because they know, like, hey, this person is putting some type of money down. And so hope that helps. Like I said, ask me if you have any other questions about that as well too. Tip number 9, introduce yourself to neighbors. And this could be either before or after you close on the home. Doesn't really matter. The important thing is that you really want to get out there, knock on doors, meet these people, get to know them. One thing a lot of people kind of tend to forget and don't really keep in mind is that your neighbors are people that really have a vested interest or really care about the value of homes in your neighborhood. They are the only people that care as much as you do about the value of your home. You guys are all tied together. You're connected. If Bob's house deteriorates and goes down, or Sally's house down the street gets foreclosed on, it affects all of you. And so it's in your best. One who lives a few houses down and they have a really Hold on, sorry guys. I think the video just paused on me. I ran out some internet connection. But again, like I was saying, meet the neighbors. If you find someone who has a really nice yard down the street, go down there and ask them. Say, hey, what did you do to get your yard like that? And there's a good chance they'll want to help you, because your yard looking better raises the value of your home, which raises the value of their home. And so get to know your neighbors. First impressions are everything. You don't want your first conversation to be with your neighbor like, hey, your tree fell onto my fence, or hey, your lot line is moving over here. You don't want your first conversation with them to be a dispute. You want it to be a good conversation. You want these to be your friends because you guys are in this together. Tip number 10, focus on the important repairs before decorations and renovations. It's the last tip, and this is a tip that you're probably not going to hear on anybody else's top 10 list. This is something that I see a lot of home buyers. This is probably one of the biggest mistakes that they make, and that is usually what they end up doing is we'll negotiate funds. Either the seller will offer to give them a credit at closing or something like that, but we'll find a way to offer the buyer funds to address certain issues or problems that they found with the home during the investigation period. And usually what ends up happening is after they close, they get tempted by that extra money in their account, and they go like, oh man, we need to get some new furniture. Oh, we need to get a new TV. Oh, we need some new bread spreads. Oh, we need this. And before you know it, they've spent all the money, and that repair is still hurting. And so like if there's a roof leak or something like that, go ahead and address that roof leak. I know it's not an appealing repair. It's not something that you can really show off when you're bringing people around to the house. But I would much rather you eat dinner on the floor for a month and take care of that roof leak than for you to have this beautiful Pier 1 Imports beautiful home and you've got no other issues or anything out there. You've got all this money, and what happens is a lot of times people have a repair that they neglect, and then before you know it, that $1,000 repair has now turned into an $8,000 repair, and you end up doing what most people do in those situations. You put it on a credit card, you get a personal loan, and so now you're taking all of that stuff, or whatever. Now all that extra debt, like I talked about in the first tip, now you're adding more debt onto all of these other issues. And so please keep that in mind. Take care of the repairs before you decorate and renovate. I'll stay on for another minute or two. Like I said, if you guys have any other questions, please feel free to ask them now. I wanted to do like a little bit of a Q&A time if someone had questions. If you're watching the rebroadcast after this has already ended, still feel free to comment, ask me a question. I'll be more than happy to address it, answer it in the comments if I can. If you have a question that's private and you don't really want to put it out there in public, send me a Facebook message and email. I'll be happy to answer those as well. Be sure to like my Facebook page. Follow me on social media. Stay up to date with what's going on in the market. This will not be my last Facebook Live video. Like I said, teaching this stuff is one of my favorite parts of being a realtor. And so I'm always looking for new opportunities, new platforms, and new ways to teach, whether it's through writing, videos, whatever I can do to kind of reach out to people. It's one thing that I want to help you guys out with. Also, like I said, in addition, I'm also going to be putting in the captions a link with all of the 10 tips and like a brief synopsis of each one of them. It won't go into detail that I did in this video, but just a brief detail of each of them. But I also have a home buyer's guide that I like to give out to people that gives you a lot more information as well too, and that's a paper, like a physical pamphlet. And if you'd like that as well, I'll be more than happy to send that into the mail to you. Just shoot me a message with your mailing address and I'll be sure to send that out. But if you guys don't have any other questions, or if there's something else that you're not thinking of, I'll be definitely be available after this. It was great talking to you. Thank you for you guys who stuck around for the entire time. I hope that this was helpful to you. I hope this was beneficial. Again, like I said, if you have friends who are looking to buy or interested in the market, send this video off to them. I hope that it's going to be of help to them as well. I really hope to be able to do this a lot more in the future, and I think I had a lot of fun. But thank you guys for joining with me, and I hope you have a great day. Thanks.